This is Bettina Lawton. I am here at the Fairfax County Government Center, and it is a Sunday afternoon on a long weekend. And with me is Cesar Del Aguila. He is the chairman of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee. And Cesar, what exactly are we doing here?
We're here because some Republicans decided to change the rules after people voted, and instead of having representation, people actually have to come in person and be before a body, and they're going to have their hearings, and they'll decide whether or not those provisional ballots are cast. We're here because people decided to change the rules of voting, taking away representation from the voter and making them show up in person.
And when you say Republicans did this, what you're really talking about is the State Board of Elections and a decision they made Friday noonish, right?
A little bit after noon, they decided that it'd be best that the voter come in person, rather than, like, if I get a speeding ticket, I can get legal counsel to represent me at a hearing court. In their wisdom, they decided, no, that's not good enough. We want the actual voter in person, like you might with a DUI case or a reckless driving case. So that's what they changed.
And this is different from how it had been done in Fairfax County before?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how did this affect, I know the Fairfax had a very active program at the polls with big signs saying, authorize us.
We did. We played by the rules. So we wanted to make it easier for those people that did have difficulty voting. They were going to cast a provisional ballot. We had our volunteers looking for folks that had those provisional ballots cast, and we then offered to represent them at the hearing, the provisional ballot hearing. So they wouldn't have to take another day off or come in. We were going to be their legal representation. I guess that got spread around. People heard of it. They decided to change the rules. So then we could no longer represent them. The voter had to physically be here in person. So we're here. We set up our volunteers once again to make sure that the voters that come in that cast the provisional ballots have all the information they need to go before the board and have their hearing and have their votes counted.
And how long do the voters have to come in?
I believe the deadline has been extended to Tuesday midnight. So we've only technically got another 2 days to get this done. And we have been calling everyone. And that was another thing. There was an issue about access to the provisional logbook. The powers that be decided we couldn't have access to that. So we had to wait till it was made available. So we probably lost a day or so there. It's just
and the powers that be. Are you talking about the state electoral board?
Yeah, I'm just going to come out and say it. The State Board of Election reports into the Attorney General's office. The current Attorney General is
Ken Cuccinelli,
and I'll leave it at that for people to infer what they will.
Well, let me ask you another question that's slightly different. I know about a year ago, the Fairfax County Democratic Committee sued the state electoral board and sued the county, Fairfax County Electoral Board.
Correct.
Does what's happening here today with the provisional ballots have any effect on that litigation?
I think it does. It strengthens our claim in that there are certain things that should be done to make voting easier and more accessible so everyone's voices are heard, as opposed to making it more difficult for people to vote. Part of our litigation, our claims were access to the provisional logbook, among a bunch of other things. So I think it further solidifies our claim. It actually makes us look right all along. There are issues. We want them addressed, not because I think people can't, but I just don't think the environment is one where you will actually get some really concrete rules and laws put in place.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue our coverage here. There's going to be a press conference shortly, and then we understand there's going to be an open session, and we will be there and bring that to you. Cesar Del Aguila, thank you very much for taking time to talk with us.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
to begin interviews of individuals who wanted to present information to the board about their reasons for voting a provisional ballot. We have been doing that since Wednesday of this week. So far, we have interviewed 69 individuals who have come in.
That's since Wednesday?
That's since Wednesday. We have had a total of 73 people, I believe, come in. We had folks who either declined to stick around or who were willing to provide a written statement rather than speak to us directly. We had one individual who was a Loudoun County resident who voted a provisional in Loudoun County, for some reason came to Fairfax to present his case. So that was unfortunate for him, since that was outside our jurisdiction.
So the difference in 4 was people who
had arrived but who did not stay to physically present to us.
And did they send you information, because you can vote based on information, right?
That's correct. I believe we received written statements from 2 of those individuals, and the third was the individual from Loudoun.
So there was a total of 69, and then coming off that was 3?
That's right. I think I think I said 73, 72.
It's 72, 3 people.
3 people that did not stick around. My apologies. There you go. Lawyers doing that.
Always wrong.
There you go. We are still intending to continue to allow voters to present information to us until Tuesday. We have a meeting at the courthouse in the morning. We don't expect that will last more than an hour or 2. We're hoping to be back here by noon, so folks will be able to continue presenting information to us until 1 hour after we get back, or 1 o'clock.
The meeting at the courthouse is for what?
We have to physically inspect ballots for one precinct where we had 13 ballots that we believe were not counted. We simply wanted to double check to make sure that is the correct number. We are not permitted by law to physically count those ballots. We will not be doing that. We will be checking the number. So we will have the election officers present. We have received authorization from the state board to inspect those ballots, and that's what we're going to do.
It's precinct 238,
Cameron.
And if you can't actually count them, what are you inspecting them for?
We want to know exactly how many ballots are in the box, because we want to double check and make sure that the number that was given to us on the statement of results for the number of ballots in the precinct is accurate. There's some confusion over whether or not those ballots, that number is correct, and we need to double check. So in the event that there is a recount, we want to make sure that the staff and both parties are aware that there is a potential for uncounted ballots in that precinct.
There's 13 additional.
And then since the Board of Elections issued their...
State Board, you mean?
The State Board of Election issued their change on Friday. Has the County Board of Elections or the Registrar's Office done anything to try and reach out to voters, or are you leaving that up to the parties?
Every individual who received a provisional ballot on Election Day was given a sheet that indicated that they were permitted to come in and provide information to the board so that we could help get the information. We have not specifically reached out to voters. We have been doing our best to make sure the media and the political parties have had the opportunity to do so. As per our practice and what the board voted on in October of this year, we have provided a spreadsheet with the publicly available information about all the provisional ballots to both political parties. I know that both parties have been calling to get provisional ballots to show up. Many of the folks have been letting us know that they've received multiple phone calls from both parties asking them to come down and make sure that they present their information. To be clear, for the record, no one needs to come and present to have their ballot counted, period. These are
to be adjudicated.
To be adjudicated.
And
these are
all we will review and adjudicate all of them.
And part of the process by which the election office goes through is there's copious research done with respect to each provisional ballot to try to make a determination whether that ballot should be counted. And I also point out that this board extended the hours by which documentation and or in-person people could come down and present their advise us as to why they voted provisionally. So the hours are 1 to 5 today, 10 to 4 tomorrow, until right around 1 o'clock on Tuesday.
So just to reiterate, what happened with the state board, because there's a lot of misinformation out there in the media, and I hope we can correct some of this. The state board did not change their guidelines. They did not tell us that that we are not allowed to vote or approve provisional ballots for folks that did not come in. What they changed was simply, what they did was they reminded us of what they believe to be the case, that the statute requires that any individual who comes to the closed provisional meeting to present in front of the board, that if they have an attorney present, that the voter has to be there. That is what they changed, or at least that is what the board reminded us.
Well, there was a deviation from past practice of Fairfax County, where the county, the last few canvasses, we allowed legal representation for the voters without the voter being present, and this statement from the board was different from past practice.
Well, at yesterday's press conference that I was also listening at, Mr. Stark said something to the effect of, you strongly disagreed with that interpretation, and Mr. Schoeneman, I think you said you disagreed, but not as strongly. You're 2 out of 3 members. Couldn't you just say, we're going to stick with our prior interpretation? I understand this was just sort of an advice. There was no official legal opinion by the Attorney General. It
was given to us in the form that it was non-discretionary, and we are bound by the guidances that are passed by the state board. So, in an abundance of caution, we have followed the state board guidelines to the letter. The Democratic Party has objected. We will get their objections on the record, hopefully whenever we get a chance to go into open session. I understand that the Party General Counsel will be reading the names of all of the individuals for whom they have received cards indicating that they should be allowed to represent that individual into the record. We're happy to let them do that. But we have been following the SPD guidance scrupulously. We have encouraged every voter that wants to provide information to do so. We will take that in any form that is provided, oral, written, and it does not have to be in the closed session. Folks who want to come in person are more than welcome to. No one has to come. No one's vote will not be counted if they don't come. And the reality is, so far, of those 69 individuals who we have interviewed, the vast majority of them have issues and fact patterns that would have been easily discovered by the staff research, and they did not need to take the time to come down here. I think we're very much concerned, I know Steve and I are very much concerned, that there are a lot of folks who have very easily explained circumstances for voting provisionally, where in past elections those ballots have been accepted. I'm not going to say they will be this time, because that's not, we won't know that for sure until we actually adjudicate. That those folks didn't need to come down here. And we apologize at least I will apologize in my personal capacity to those individuals for having them have to come down here because it wasn't necessary. Again, we're doing this out of an abundance of caution to give everybody the opportunity to come out and to speak, and so that they can be heard if they so choose. It is their right to come and speak to us if they choose.
But in a tight election like this, it's out of abundance of caution that the people come in.
Right, and
That's
I believe, and I disagree with him. I believe that by allowing and extending the hours, and the people coming down and trying to get their ballots adjudicating, it just increases the effectiveness of our being able to have all of the facts in front of us to properly adjudicate the ballots. And I think it's a positive. I think it's a very positive thing, and I commend both parties for using that. It's 3:45 on Sunday with lots of hours left, and we've already had basically 70 plus people show up in person to discuss their ballots. I think it's a positive thing.
On 2 sort of questions for clarification. The spreadsheet was given to the parties when?
Thursday around 2 p.m.
And is that the standard time that they get it? That's like days after the election.
It takes a long time to get the information all compiled.
I'm sorry.
We are required by law to create a provisional ballot log. That is what the staff does. That includes information that is proprietary, that is considered confidential, that we are not allowed to release to either party or to the public. And it also includes information that the board itself does not want to see. When we get our list, the only person that has that full ballot log is the general registrar. And that log will include names, addresses, phone numbers, dates of birth, precinct that they should be voted in, the reason for their voting a provisional, and their Social Security information the last 4 digits that's on the provisional ballot log, if the voter chose to disclose that information. When we do our adjudication, we will get a log. It's not even a log. We'll get a spreadsheet with the names redacted and numbers generated for the voter, the reasons the provisional ballot was cast, and that's it. That way, when we make our decision, it's as blind as we can for folks who do not come in to present to us. The parties have information that includes names, addresses, phone numbers, dates of birth, but no confidential information as the state board has defined it, which is Social Security numbers and the reasons for voting provisional. That has been redacted. We are not providing photocopies of the provisional ballot log. We're not allowing anybody to look at the envelopes, even though in some other jurisdictions they do allow folks to look at the individual envelopes. Both parties in the provisional ballot meeting are by law allowed to inspect the provisional ballot log. All we have done by providing the spreadsheets ahead of time is an administrative convenience so that the parties are not sitting there for hours taking notes diligently on every single voter who came in so that they can go outside and contact them, which is what we know they intended to do. As an aside, when I was general counsel for the Republican Party last election, I wanted all of this information so that we could contact voters to get them out here. And we did not receive it in a timely fashion. And that was something that I decided I wanted to make sure would happen when I was put on the board in March.
Okay, we need to take 1 or 2 more questions because we have voters.
Yes, just for a quick clarification though, the election's on Tuesday, so the staff doesn't get their hands on these provisional ballots until Wednesday morning, and so close to 500 envelopes.
Yeah, we had 493
handwritten
ballots
that they had to then take and transcribe into a spreadsheet. Not really a surprise that the smooth, double-checked version of that didn't get out until 2 o'clock the next day.
So if a voter doesn't want to come down or can't come down or doesn't know that they ought to be coming down, you say you're going to consider what they have. Is that whatever they wrote on election day or whatever they did?
We'll have information. We have chief's notes from every precinct, and that includes information regarding folks who voted provisionally. We asked the chiefs to document every provisional ballot they put out, so we have that information. We have their voter registration records. We have the absentee ballot records and whether they were sent or received one, and we have their past voting histories and those types of things. We also were able to check and see if we received DMV, change of address applications, and things along those lines. The staff has the ability to go back through and pull all of our records for every single voter who comes in. That typically dispenses with the vast majority of the issues out there. For certain issues, we had an issue earlier with an individual where we just can't figure out what happened. That's when having that individual present really made a difference, so we have a better idea of what went on when he came to vote. But the reality is most of these issues are very cut and dried, one way or the other, and the staff research is sufficient for us to be able to make an informed decision that we're confident is correct.
You gave us 69 today. Do you have the numbers from yesterday?
69 is the total since we opened up. It started Wednesday at 12 o'clock. That's we have 69 people that have appeared to us.
I had been checking on the date, but I think I have screwed that up and don't have how many we've done today, so I apologize.
Yeah, we're not going to. Right, it's 69 total.
All right, thanks, everyone.
We are back. It was right after the press conference that the Fairfax County Board of Elections just had. I'm back here with Cesar Del Aguila. Cesar, did you learn anything new?
I did. There are specific circumstances where some folks do not need to be here, which was good clarification. But I would still encourage everyone that voted a provisional ballot to make sure, if they want their voices heard, to get down to the government center and make sure you present yourself to the board and make your case. Make sure your ballot's counted.
Okay. Well, thank you for staying around so we could get your impressions. I would note for everyone out there that according to the statements during the press release, you will have until 1 o'clock on Tuesday to come down to the government center. It's the main government center in Fairfax to make your case. If you voted a provisional ballot, that means you had a green envelope and some instructions when you left the polling place. Come on down. You have till 1 o'clock on Tuesday to make sure that your vote is counted in this incredibly close election.